Aloha and welcome back to another video. This is my Captain America collection along with whatever it bleeds into. I think this video will probably be long enough to bleed into my Daredevil collection as well. And if you haven't seen the last video, I went over all my Thor pickups up to about this point here. Quite a few comics, as you can see. Geez, can't even fit them all in frame there by bending them, pushing them forward like that. But anyways, here is my Captain America collection. Let me go through that, and I'm going through it section by section here, partially because people may not be interested in everything, and also because this video is going to be multiple parts because of how long it is. Look at how many comics I have to go through. So this you've seen before. This is Captain America, the Anniversary Tribute issue. This features the first appearance of Captain America, issue 1 from back in whatever, 1940 something. I'm not even going to guess because I'll probably get it wrong. It'd be 1941 if it's 80-year anniversary, unless I'm crazy. Anyways, and Avengers issue 4, I believe, which is issue 3 or issue 4, which is the return of Captain America after he wakes up from the ice. Very cool issue. 2 issues in one, basically, and both of them are great. More than just because of their history, but they were just fun to read. Of course, they both feel like they're from the time that they came out, but as long as you're okay with that, they're good reads, and I definitely recommend picking that up if you can pick up that anniversary issue for not too much money. It is all redrawn, however, so you're not going to be getting exactly reprints of those 2 issues. You're going to be getting redrawn versions of those 2 issues. So if you're okay with that, definitely pick that up. Issue 309 is a lot of fun. One of the better issues I have of Captain America for sure. It's a one-shot, but so you don't need to read anything else. But the returning characters, you may enjoy their presence more if you know who Nomad and Madcap is, or who they are. But basically the plot line is very kind of existential in ways. Nomad is trying to break out of the hold that Captain America has on him, so to speak. He's been his underling for quite a while, and Nomad basically feels as if he's been kind of smothered by Captain America. And at the same time, a crazy kind of a villain, Madcap, comes back, and he kind of starts to try and convince Nomad that maybe the bad guy life is the life for him. And that may seem a little silly, but the way it's portrayed in the comic fits very well. You can tell that Nomad's probably never going to become bad for sure, but it also does, later on you'll see about 30 issues from now, that you'll see that Nomad isn't exactly the person that you always thought he was. And this kind of, besides alluding to that, besides kind of foreshadowing that would happen quite a few years later, a handful of years later. Beyond that, it also just kind of, shows you that there's reasons why bad guys become bad guys. Madcap's story, his backstory, is actually talked about in here, and it's quite sad. And overall, there's quite a big stench in that issue of kind of existentialism and what's kind of the point in fighting. And you kind of get that answer from many different sides, both why the bad guys fight for the bad, as why they're bad, but also why Captain America fights for what he fights for, and why Nomad fights for what he fights for. Issue 313, I don't remember too much about, but I remember it being decent. As you can see, it's fighting a MODOK once again, and I imagine if I'm trying to remember correctly, I'm guessing the Serpent Society gets involved once again, but this is pre the Captain Serpent Society, so it's not exactly, and also just earlier Serpent Society, so it's not, certain things involving Diamondback and such aren't exactly played out yet, so it's, oh, dang it, these are a little out of order. Well, good thing I'm going to be going through these and fixing them. Let me fix it after this part of the video. But here we have issue 301. Geez, got this out of order. This is right after, I should say, the fall of Red Skull, the death of Red Skull. And because of that, it kind of doesn't, it's kind of the leftovers. It's cleaning house of that plot line. So because of that, the issue definitely isn't a gargantuan issue. But if you've read The Death of Red Skull and you want more, this kind of is necessary because it cleans house. But it's not really anything you'd want to read on your own unless you've already read that. Should you read the Death Red Skull, though? Oh, yeah, you totally should. Definitely, if you're a Captain America fan, you owe it to yourself to read, when does it start? 390, I think. 390 through 300, or 290 through 300, I believe, is the Death of Red Skull. Anyways, and here we have issue 330. This is quite good. This is how many parts? 2 or 3 parts. I think this 3-part story arc, if I remember correctly. I'll put it on screen if I'm wrong or right. But the last issue, Captain America goes into the sewers to follow a lead involving a criminal organization. He runs into the criminal organization and has to fight his way out, or fight his way through, which is this issue, if I remember correctly. And 1 or 2 issues from now, I think it's 1 issue, leads right into kind of how this underground society kind of is tied to the government, and that gets Captain America involved in The Captain, which is I'll click the card in the top right, but The Captain is a long, 30-something issue long run involving Captain America needing to find out who he truly is, and he has to get rid of the identity of Captain America. He has to become the Captain, which is his new persona, and through this, Captain America basically has to go on a long journey of figuring out who his friends truly are, and more than that, but who he truly is. Has to find himself. Streets of Poison is so much fun. Streets of Poison is probably my favorite comic run that I've read so far. Wow, right? That's crazy. And why is this? It's cheesy. Sure, it's not regarded too well. It's cheesy, it's weird, and was a short-lived kind of blip on the Captain America radar. But for me personally, I have a lot of nostalgia for this series because my first ever comic was issue 375, which you'll see in a minute here, and that was the first issue, or that was the first issue, Captain America issue I ever read, and one of my first comics I ever read, about halfway through this Streets of Poison run, and I just thought it was so cool at the time. And even now, these issues from this particular run are overall later era of Captain America definitely kind of got darker and took more inspiration, I'd say, from some of the things that happened around that time in terms of where Batman was progressing, and DC was kind of helping lead the charge and pushing comic books to be a kind of darker medium. And on top of that, the 90s were starting to get a little edgy. We had Image. I forget if Image this was 91 or 92. 1990. Anyway, so around that time, a few years later, we definitely saw this be pushed even more so. But even Captain America, even the man in blue and red himself, that's known for being his series was known in the past, at least, for being very cut and dry in terms of morally. Even then, they were pushing the envelope here. So yeah, even Captain America was affected by kind of the 90s edginess. But I think it's fun because of that, right? It's a unique time capsule from that era because it doesn't take itself seriously, and because it features a lot of the kind of it features the mindset that you'd see in other series, like, again, Batman, stuff that Image did a few years later, and so on, stuff that you'd see in Daredevil, but it's in Captain America, so that's what's so unique about it. And outside of that, my memories of it, it's just a really fun plot that's well done. The whole comic, again, is drenched in this dark, seedy atmosphere, a lot of dilapidated buildings, and it's a very complex plot that can be summarized pretty easily. However, Captain America accidentally ingests drugs and becomes addicted, becomes a junkie himself. And slowly, this drug, I forget exactly the name of it, is similar in ways to crack cocaine and steroids, so to speak, in its effects. And it gets him amped up, gets him extremely high on adrenaline, Captain America, and turns him into a ravenous vigilante in a way. And there you go, that's what you follow. And along with that, you have his friends come along for the journey and try and stop him. You have Black Widow, of course, as you can see here, Diamondback, and other characters. I gotta keep going through these. Issue 374, as you can see, facing off against Bullseye. I won't show y'all, won't pull it all the way out. And as you can see there, he's holding, I forget what that weapon's called, man. But anyways, there's a lot of Japanese kind of theming in it as well. You got the Kingpin, you even have Daredevil and some seedlings of that series hop in. And this was my original copy, my original, arguably first comic I ever had. It has some damage on it, but it was very well loved. I keep it out of the sleeve because I think, hey, what the heck? I have a clean copy that's in a sleeve, and I have my original copy right here that has a few rips, on the back here. But it was loved, very, very much loved, and I constantly read this. And the funny thing was, I didn't even need the other issues to fill in the story because my imagination did it for me. No, I was always looking for them, never got to until beginning of this year, around December, January was finally when I was able to complete this story. But up until that point, I just all I could do was reread this. So I reread this constantly back to back, and came up with my own different ideas of how the story would change and end and so on. You even have Crossbones that comes in later on, but just a very fun set of issues, and 375 is no different. Moving on here, we have my extra copy. Let me go back here. I got 391, 385. What is that? I don't know. Let's go back here. Okay, and then we have my other copy that should be here, but once again, things are a little out of order. Is this 86? Yeah, or 76, I should say. Okay, so here's my other copy, as you can see here. Better condition, definitely. Not fantastic, but definitely better condition. But that's okay. It's nice to have two copies, especially because I have my original and then the better quality one. Here we have 376. You can see that there's definitely some tension surrounding Diamondback. Definitely Diamondback's love interest with Captain America kind of, I don't want to say comes to a head. It's not that drastic, but definitely is brought up in this, and it's all just very much a fun issue, product of the, what would you call it? Product of the War on Drugs era. Very cool cover there. And then finally it ends off with issue 378, I believe. Yes, ends with issue 378. I don't have issue 372 though, which is where it starts. But still, a 6-issue run was pretty good for the time of 1990. Of course, was definitely rivaled by the length of runs that were to come, but nonetheless, 384, yet another standout issue. I've only given a few issues 5 stars. This is one of them. Issue 375, because of my nostalgia and because of how much I enjoy it, got that as well. And I think issue 370, I think it was 376 as well, also got a 5-star rating, which those are some of the only 5-star ratings, I've given to any comic. And what ratings am I talking about? Well, those are the ratings I gave the individual issues on my League of Comic Geeks, which, if I remember, I'll put my link to my account in the description down below. You can check out every comic I own in, I guess you're seeing it now, but you can check out the comics I own over there. You can see my collection grow, hear me talk about various issues occasionally. I haven't been on there for a while now, but nonetheless, you'll hear me talk about quite a few comics over there and so on. It's a lot of fun. The reason why this issue is so great, though, definitely recommend picking this up. And although it's tied to some events that happened in the 380s, you can still read it without knowing it for sure. Captain America has to basically return to the ice, but instead of dying in the ice himself, well, you'll have to read it and see. He goes to the ice because I forget if there's a signal that S.H.I.E.L.D. gets from that area or what it is. I think that was it. So they send Captain America out to check it out, and as you can see, some crazy stuff happens involving monsters, other heroes, and some kind of, once again, ties back to Captain America being from the ice himself, and kind of the whole thing about how he has basically a connection to an emotional connection to all of that's whole setting because of, obviously that's how he became Captain America. So there's kind of reflections of that and so on. Interesting issue. It's not groundbreaking, but definitely kind of more unique than other one-off issues, and a very fun one, especially for the season. If it's around Christmas time, it's always a fun read for me. Issue 385. 385 is, I'm pretty sure, part of a 2-part story arc with either 84 or I think it's 86. 385 and 386, I'm pretty sure, are part of the same story arc. So a short little story, basically focusing around Captain America's friends and love life and how that gets involved with a group known as the Watchdogs, which you'll know if you've read the Captain, the run that I talked about a little while ago. And it's a fun issue for sure, and kind of involves the whole trope of not really wanting to be a bad guy, but kind of getting roped into the wrong crowd type of thing, and involves Captain America's friends. So if that sounds interesting, it definitely it's good enough for what it is. 2-issue story arc, pretty easy to complete. A real fun but crazy story that I picked up not very long ago, probably my most recent Captain America pickups, is issue 387 through, is it 92, 93? You'll see, and it's the Superia Stratagem, which is a very funny and very fitting of our time comic run series, whatever you want to call it, mini-series, that's about 6 issues long, I'm pretty sure, from the little part peeking out there, but very cool cover, or cool, colorful cover here. And it basically features Captain America getting stuck on a cruise ship surrounded by nothing but female supervillains. And it turns out that the woman that's running everything wants women, and only women, to rule the world and be the only humans on Earth. And she's basically a raging feminist and wants to turn Captain America and all men into women. So it's a pretty crazy and dumb issue, but it has that early 90s charm. It's well written enough. It's written very seriously, despite having the theming not be serious at all. So because of that, it's just a hilarious issue that's played very straight, and that's what makes it so funny. Cool cover there as well, well illustrated. Let me not get lost here and put this in the wrong spot. This goes right after here, so that's 389. Then we have 390, where, as you can see, Captain America and his friend that went along with them, forget his name, but Paladin, how they go along for the journey and have to, once again, fight off against an entire cruise ship worth of female supervillains. Then they're going to be turned into women themselves. Oh no! And yeah, then he eventually, Captain America eventually has to fight against basically the biggest feminist you can imagine, talking about how men are inferior and all this stuff about that all men were meant to be women in the end, and women are their only real gender, and it's just crazy. Just a crazy plot line, really fun and cheesy. I definitely recommend if it sounds interesting. Obviously, for some people, they're not going to be able to laugh at it, but if you're able to laugh at stuff like that, it's a really funny issue, or a really funny mini-series, about 6 issues. And although that's a little bit long in the tooth for a joke, the joke is kind of just keeps advancing, right? It keeps progressing throughout those issues. It almost gets funnier and funnier as it goes along, and crazier until it basically just climaxes at the very last 1 or 2 issues, when you have Captain America trying to turn into a woman, and then the women have to dress up. Some of the good women have to dress up as men, and it's a whole gender bender kind of thing. Fun issue for sure. Issue 1 of the reboot of Captain America, Heroes Return, 1998. This was right around the time when a lot of characters were being rebooted. A lot of long-standing series were being redone with new, very 90s art plot lines that were supposed to reinvigorate the characters and reinvent them for a new generation. And they did this with Captain America and Thor and Daredevil and so many other series, and it wasn't very good. It's a byproduct of the era, but more so than that, it feels like a desperate attempt for Marvel to gain relevance at a time when they didn't have relevance. And specifically, they were, here's the back you could look at and read some of the quotes. The back of Marvel was basically going bankrupt around that time. They sold a ton of their rights in terms of films to various companies, and that's why we had the whole thing with Disney needing to acquire Fox and Fox and various rights from Paramount and Sony and so on. And this is part of that. Besides Marvel selling off a lot of their film rights, they also rebooted a million of their series in hopes that would help. Rebooted Captain America, which went on for 480 or 490 issues. Thor, which again went on for last video I talked about it, went on for 500 and something issues, like 502 issues, something like that. It's crazy. Daredevil that went on forever. And it was all just thrown away, those series, totally rebooted. And although they kind of tried to mend that the best they could, ultimately it seems as if it's never the same. Once you break, just like, I shouldn't say that. I'll just say it. It's the virginity seal. It's once you break past that, once you cheat and you reboot a series once, it's never the same. Even if you try and go back to legacy numbering, it's just not the same. And I get that the Captain America series was not doing very well up to this point, and a lot of their series weren't, but it's one thing for a series not to do well, but to do better and have them continue, but it's a whole nother to try and reboot it, reinvent the character, and then have it go bad like it did, and then needing to return back to what they went to before anyway. So a lot of the stuff, like I said, a lot of the changes as far as I knew were retconned anyway, so whatever. Still, nonetheless, not a very good issue. I have it for the historical value and because I wanted to try it out ages ago. One of my first Captain America comics I got, but definitely not a good issue, even with some of the nostalgia that's attached to it. These Daredevil issues, going into Daredevil now, I showed off some of these. This cover, I love this cover. Super cool. Issue 392, and this is part of a... So basically, this Daredevil story arc is various heroes throughout, Marvel that clash with Daredevil, and he has to get involved somehow. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. There's the Punisher, there's a handful of villains, Ghost Rider, and there might be one other character you'll see in a minute. I have most of the issues in that run. I'm missing about 2, I think. But yeah, 392 is a lot of fun, and the whole story arc is a lot of fun if you're looking for something to read with Daredevil. Obviously, it's later on. It's past the point of, so the more acclaimed writers. This kind of era people oftentimes overlook because it's later on. I read more of this era, specifically the late 80s and early 90s, because they're so cheap. So yeah, coming from the perspective of someone that's not a big, long-time reader, take it what you will. I enjoy that kind of stuff, that kind of era of a lot of Marvel. But I wanted to say that I missed showing this. Jeez, I don't know how I missed this. This is a really cool cover. But you've seen this before. King Black tie-in Captain America. It's 1 issue, 1 out of 1. But this was not a very good issue. It was okay. Below average, though, definitely. And compared to a lot of the older issues that I had, that I'm showing you guys, it just doesn't compare. It was okay, but about exactly what you'd expect. It's Captain America fighting against symbiotic blob of monsters, along with various friends of his, the Falcon, and someone else. I'm trying to remember who it was. It doesn't particularly matter. It was kind of boring. But for the time, right, if you were looking for King in Black and you were super hyped about King in Black, or maybe you're a bigger fan of this modern era of Captain America than I am, it might do more for you. But ultimately, it's nothing too special. And I went through, when I cut the camera, I went through my Captain America collection and made sure that I showed you everything. And I'm pretty sure I've showed you everything, unless I have some issues sitting around. I forgot to tell you guys this in the first part, but I have various issues that are scattered about that are just sitting around, but I'll put those away in the series where I'm organizing my collection and talking to you guys. So you'll see what I'm talking about then. Maybe there's a few Captain America issues that are in there. I don't think there are, but just in case, I'll tell you guys. It goes, where would it go? It's last one chronologically here. So, because it's the most recent Captain America issue I have. Okay, right here. So yeah, I showed you that Daredevil issue. The next Daredevil issue I have, chronologically, once again, is 395. You've seen this again as well, but I talked about it. He goes side by side with Ghost Rider, and I wasn't wrong. Awesome cover, pretty cool issue, not as good as the Punisher one, but a lot of fun, and continues that story. Definitely one that I recommend reading. And next up we have issue, 390, wait, 393? Man, it's out of order. I don't know what I'm doing. I gotta sort through this. That's why there's that other series. I could have done that series first, but I kind of wanted to show you guys everything I have that's not new, before showing you all the stuff that I have new and I sort through it. So, but because of that, there's going to be some issues out of order here and there. It's mostly in order, but as you saw, every so often a few of them are slightly switched around. 393, A Bullet for the Punisher, continues that story along. Let me make sure I put this in the right location here and don't screw it up again. 390, 392, 393. Then we have that Ghost Rider issue I talked about. I didn't care about the Ghost Rider story as much as the one with the Punisher, but that's just more what character I prefer. Very good issue nonetheless, or a good issue, very solid issue nonetheless. 390. Dang it. And here's 394. Came in between there, whatever. He fights Daredevil. Daredevil faces off against various members of the Hand, and the whole kind of involvement of how that kind of ties into Elektra is quite interesting, and you kind of get some murmurings of what's going on in the Daredevil world as of this issue. So despite hopping right into these issues without reading much prior, a little bit but not much prior, it still works, because although you're not getting full details about everything that had happened, you definitely get some more details as to where Elektra is and how she ties into the Hand, or did tie into the Hand in that issue. Then you got the Ghost Rider, and then I believe there's one or two more issues in this plot line that I haven't gotten yet, that's after this issue. So I don't have that yet, but moving along here, you've seen a lot of these before, but I'll show them off real quick. We have videos getting long in the tooth. I don't have too much more to show you though, and I don't have a lot to say about these. Man Without Fear issue 1 is I believe it's a modern day issue coming out. Modern issue with very similar name, going over a plot line involving Daredevil. I don't know what it is particularly. But here we have Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, a lot of fun. These early issues are fantastic. They flow together very nicely, and open Daredevil up to what became a great series, and it started off with a bang. Issue 3 involves Daredevil, as you can see, running from the cops after being framed for, or accidentally murdering someone. These issues, Zdarsky's series starts out extremely strong, and it just keeps going up into issue 6. Things start to slow down because you're not in the last part. They gotta fill you in on this new new run that's happening. This new but still very good, and definitely helps. About issue 6 is when you start really getting filled in on what's exactly going on in Hell's Kitchen politically, and how the world around Daredevil is quickly going to crumble. We got issue 7, which involves that as well. The great thing about the series as a whole, but even early on in these issues, which really keeps you interested early on, now that we're to the point that we are, where we're at issue 30, 31, I think. Now that we're there, it makes more sense that we follow so many characters. But even early on, we were following quite a few characters with Daredevil, Matt Murdock's, actual Matt Murdock's persona, the Kingpin himself, and then various members of the organized crime family in the area. So because of all that, even early on, there's a lot to follow, but it's all very well done and parallels each other. They parallel each other quite nicely, the different things that go on with those particular characters. And because of that and the way that it's handled, although it may seem like a pretty big cast to have only 7 issues in, it's handled very well, and then it just continues onward. So even still now that you're at issue 30 something, you definitely have experience juggling multiple characters. So Zdarsky still continues to do that, still continues to introduce new characters and have you deal with 3 or 4 different parties all at once. So I think it's really cool that he does that. It's more than just that he introduces characters early, later on. He had a bunch to begin with early on as well, so it doesn't feel too jarring or anything like that. And then we have issue 11 as well. Just kind of been filling out my collection slowly. You can tell I'm still missing various number of issues, but still quite cool. And it's nice to see Spider-Man. It was once we had issues very early on, the first few issues, there were various characters, Luke Cage and Spider-Man as well, right? Luke Cage and Spider-Man the Punisher and so on, that were shown off. But it was cool to have later on, even by issue 11, they still, and still now, they're throwing in characters here and there as cameos, and I like that. Keeps you kind of engaged. I kind of wish they did that a bit more, especially recently. These last 10 or so issues, they haven't really done much of that, but by the point of issue 11, it was nice to see that they still were, giving us surprises like that. And here we have issue 17. Cool cover for sure, definitely love that orange. And by this point, things were really coming to a head. The climax, the best, I don't know about the best, but the most action-packed, the most climactic point we've gotten to so far was issue 20 to 21. So this was definitely, things were definitely ramping up. Hell's Kitchen was starting to completely crumble to ashes, and stuff really hit the fan. Let's just put it that way. I can't really say too much about these without spoiling it. I got to do a whole video one of these days where I go through every issue, one by one, and go in depth in the story, kind of like a synopsis kind of thing. If you're interested, I'll definitely do that. I've been wanting to do that for quite a while. That was actually going to be one of my earlier videos in like March or April. But stuff happened. I started fading out of comics, and by summer, up until now, I haven't even been making comic book content. But yeah, 25 is quite cool. In the 20s, you definitely have Elektra be in the forefront, and more than just be a side character, but literally be right in the forefront and have more time, more panel time. I was about to say on-screen time, but it's not a TV show. She has more time dedicated to her than even Daredevil, even Matt Murdock. So later on, around this time. Issue 26, I only got the variant cover. I kind of wanted the original cover instead, but that's okay. It's in good condition for what it is, and it's weird though, because obviously there's no xenomorph in this story. It's just a cover meant to advertise another comic series. So it's a bit odd. I think modern day comic covers are odd in that sense, where there's so many different variants and so many different covers that don't have a lot to do with the actual issue for many series, that there's not really any covers that stand out anymore, or nearly as much, because of that, because there's so many of them to choose from and so on. back and things just keep progressing, really. I don't have too much to say here. I think I stopped reading around issue 29. I think that's when I stopped reading. And I have, no, that's 28. What is this? This is 27. Jeez, I gotta make sure I show you everything and I don't skip over. What issues? This is 28? 20, 29. I thought this was 27. No, this is 27. Okay, 27. Not a big fan of that cover. Modeled after Marvel Masterworks. It's okay for what it is, but not a crazy fan of it. Oh yeah, I guess yeah. So we do see some. I talked about how we do see some characters later on. What's the Iron Man for? We have other characters as well, but Iron Man either appeared in this issue or one of the next issues, one of the more recent issues for sure. So yeah. As you see, they still throw in characters, other Marvel characters here and there. Again, I am still standing by what I said, which is that I wish they would do it a bit more, but it's not like they never do it though. They definitely do, as I was just showing there. Issue 29 has a really cool cover there. I like that quite a bit. Definitely shows off what's going, definitely is a bold cover, re-illustrating kind of what's been going on in the series, and that Elektra definitely has taken the forefront. Issue 30, beautiful cover. I love those, the purple and kind of indigo, pink, orange, yellow kind of colors in the background there. Very cool. Of course, you have the newspaper there illustrating what's going on with Daredevil in prison. And I have, some of the issues that I'll be showing off here that 28, 29, some of the issues that I got that I'll show in my pickups are the Daredevil issues I'm missing, some of them. So you'll see that later on. And next up, X-Men. Next time. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. If you like the video, definitely tell me. If you have any suggestions, tell me down below in the comments. I love feedback, good, bad, up, down, left, right. Thank you for watching. Aloha.